Right. So we're starting now. This is also Maimer Bossi Legani in Tafshin Lamed Beis. This Maimer, they were learning the second cycle, which means the first 20 years. The Rebbe explained the 20 chapters. Then they started again, Lamed Aleph. He explained chapter one, Lamed Beis. He explained chapter two. Now, this mimer they published when they started to learn chapter two for the third time. They published the mimer in Tafshin Nun Beis. This is the last mimer that from Bossi Legani that they published, while the Rebbe was able to be Magia the Mamorim. Of course, after in Tafshin Nun Beis, when the Rebbe suffered the stroke. So then they no longer was Magia Mamorim. So this is basically the last Mugadika Maimer from Yuchvat, Tafshin Lamed Beis. The Rebbe actually gave the Maimer Va'ata Tetzave after that, which was the actually last Maimer. In any event, this Maimer concentrates basically on the second chapter of the Hemshech of Basi Legani. We have two more Mamorim left over here to finish all the Mamorim that the Mugadika that we have from the Rebbe in the Mamorim Mulukatim. B'tayayte Dishmaya Yud Shvat Hei Tovshin Lamed Beis Basi Legani Achoisi Kalo. So the Rebbe starts always off with the beginning of the Maimer until he reaches the second point. He explains a few ideas along the way until he gets to chapter 2, till he gets to Perek Beis. So the Rebbe begins with the pasuk of Basi Legani Achoisi Kalo from Shir HaShirim in Perek Hey. Over there it says that I have come to my garden. Hashem is saying, my sister, my bride, talking to the Jewish people, that I have come to my garden. Umevi kveid kidushas meirichomu admur bal hahilula. So the Rebbe says that my father-in-law, the Bal hahilula, whose yortzeit is when the Maimer was given, the yortzeit was on Yud Shvat, the Hilula yortzeit. So he brings down B'hamaimer the Yom HaHistalkus v'Yom HaHilula Shaloi, on the Maimer in which he said on the day of his Histalkus and the day of his Hilula. So he brings down the Isa b'Medrash Rabbo b'Mekoyme, that in the Medrash Rabbo, in the Shir HaShirim b'Mekoyme, on the place in Shir HaShirim, and that Medrash Rabbo, it says Legani Liginuni, to my garden, means Liginuni, to my place of pleasure, a garden of pleasure, Ginuni. L'makom shehoyo ikri b'techila, to the place that I was mainly in the beginning. That's why it was Ginuni Gani. It's my garden, it's my place, because that was actually in the beginning. Hashem is basically saying, I'm coming back, Legani, coming back to my place where I was in the beginning. Why is this the place where Hashem was in the beginning? Because the Iker Shechina b'tachtonim hoyso. Because the main of the Shechina was take here in the lower. So now when Hashem says this is talking about with the building of the Mishkan, Hashem is saying, I'm coming back to a place where I was in the beginning. Because to begin with, in creation, the Eibishter originally was mainly in Tachtonim, Elo. But what happened? But through the undesirable matters, Maschil Mechet Eitz Hadas, beginning with the sin of the Eitz Hadas, Nistalko hashechina milmata lemailo ad liraki hashvi. So the Shekhinah left, went away, moved up from below to above. Ad liraki hashvi, until it went all the way to the seventh sky, which is the highest, furthest away from the earth. The Shiva Rikim, it went all the way to the seventh Rikia. So that's happened through the undesirable, the Avedas, the sins, starting with Adam Arishon Eitz Hadas, till the seventh sin, which removed the Shekhinah all the ways to the seventh heaven. Achar kach amdu tzadikim, and then the righteous that stood up, that came, maskil me'Avrom Avinu. We started with our father Avram. We say about Avram, Echad Hoyo Avram. Avram was one. He started it. He was unique. He was one. He stood up all by himself against the whole world, the recognition of Hashem. And they brought down, these tzaddikim brought down the Shekhinah back from above to below. Ad sheba Moshe shehu hashivi, until Moshe came around. He is the seventh in the order of these tzaddikim that are bringing down the Shekhinah. B'chol hashivin chavivin, and all the seventh are precious, are dear. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who was dear, he was the seventh of the tzaddikim. V'yirida lamata ba'oretz, he brought it down below into the ground. How and when did Moshe Rabbeinu bring the Shekhinah down into the Oretz, into the land, into this world? That took place with the Beis Hamikdash, Inyan Zeh, and the Mishkan. Inyan Zeh, this idea of Hamshochas v'Yiridas Hashchina Lamata Ba'oretz, to draw it down and to bring down the divine below into the land. Shahoy Salidei Moshe, that was through Moshe. Hoyo Be'iker Beveis Hamikdash. It was mainly, the Shekhinah was mainly in the Beis Hamikdash. That's where in this earth they brought it down. The place was the Beis Hamikdash. Kamesha Kosuf, like the Pasuk says, Ba'osu li Migdash, make for me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'soicha, and I will dwell amongst you. So this is the place where the Shekhinah came down to dwell. In the Oretz was b'soicha, and that was in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe makes now a note that the Maimer tells us where the Shekhinah mainly was. And in the Medrash, it talks about the time when the Shekhinah came down. So here we're talking where in the Maimer, Ulahoyir. The Rebbe says to point out, שבמדרש שום מדבר בנגיע להזמן שבו הויסו המשוחס השכינה למטה. In the Medrash there, he talks about the time in which the Shekhinah was drawn down below. She'iker hashechina ba'aretz hoyisa b'yom shehukom hamishkan. The Medrash says that the main resting of the Shekhinah in the Aretz was on the day that the Mishkan was erected. So that means that's the timing. When did it come down? That's mainly in the Medrash over there. Ubehamaimer, but in the Maimer medaber b'negeya lehamokoi. Over here we talk as it relates to the place sheboi nimshucha hashechina, in which the Shekhinah came down, the place of the Shekhinah. The Iker HaHamshocha, that the main place where it extends is drawn down, Ubemishkon Umigdosh. It's in the Mishkan and the Migdosh. The Maimer concentrates on the place where it comes down, and in the Medrash it concentrates on the timing when it comes down. Now, through the Hamshacha coming down in the Mishkan and the Mikdash, that's a defined area. We said they brought it down the Mata Ba'aretz, but here we're saying specifically it came down into the Mishkan and Mikdash. But he says, Va'al Yidei Zeh, through the Hamshacha in the Mishkan and Mikdash, Nimshech Gilu Elokus Gam B'chlol Sha'ilum. Through this, the revelation of godliness extends also in the world in general. Okay. Base. Mamshich b'hamaymer diuk loshen hakosuv v'shochanti b'seichel. So the Maimer continues by pointing out the precise language of the pasuk. It says v'shochanti b'seichel, make a migdosh, and I will rest amongst you. So technically, it should say, I will rest amongst it. Make me a migdosh, and the Eibishter will rest within the migdosh, but it doesn't say I will rest within it. It says I will rest amongst you. It doesn't say in it, elo b'soichom, amongst you, which is b'soich kol echad ve'echad miYisrael. So really, but even though the pasuk talks about resting about the Mikdash, but it means really by every Yid, because every Yid makes a Mishkan. Zehu tzadikim yirshu oretz v'yishkenu la'ad alahom. That the tzadikim, they inherit the land, they inherit Gan Eden, and they rest forever on it. Shetzadikim heim mashkinim. What does it mean? Because tzadikim, just like Moshe Rabbeinu brought the Shekhinah down in the, but the tzadikim are also yishkenu la'adala. Tzadikim heim mashkinim, which is mamshichim. They make rest, which means they draw down as Shekhinah, the divine shenikra ad. That's called ad forever. Yishkenu la'ad, the one who is shoichen ad, morem v'kodesh, the one who rests forever, the exalted one, the holy one. So the Eibishter is referred to as ad, the one who dwells forever, is ever. So yishkenu la'ad, yishkenu means they draw down. La'ad, the one who is eternal. Hashem aleha on the oretz. The tzaddikim will inherit the land because they bring down la'ad aleho. So just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, we said before that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Shekhinah into the world, the same thing is tzaddikim also bring down, as it says, yishknu la'ad aleho, should bring down the la'ad aleho onto the oretz, shetiya bigilui lemato, that it should be openly over here below. Rebbe points out that v'yeshlema, so we can say the zeh shemevi be'hamaimer pirush haposuk tzadikim yirshu oretz. He brings down in the maimer the meaning of the posuk tzadikim yirshu oretz koimer la'acharei shemevaer she'iker ha'amshocha hoiso b'mishkan. After he explains that the Hamshacha was in the Mishkan, that's where it came about. The Shekhinah was drawn down. He says, mainly it was in the Mishkan. So after explaining that, when we say that the Iker Shekhinah, that they brought down the Shekhinah Lamato, he says it was brought down in the Mishkan. And Ulachre, he also explains Shemevayer, that we're in the Mishkan, the Betoicham, Loshen Rabim uBetoichal Echad V'Echad miYisrael. That when we say that in the Mishkan means in the each and every Yid, so then he says that the tzaddikim bring down also the Shechina Lamata. So the order is Huleram is to hint to us the Dezesh tzaddikim mamshichim as Shechina Lamata. The fact that the tzaddikim bring down the divine v'yishkenu la'ad aleho, that we're saying they bring down la'ad into the world. Hakavona bozeh he loy rak l'shiva hatzaddikim shem Avram ad Moshe. So when we're saying to tzaddikim yirshu oretz, doesn't mean only the 7 tzaddikim that is from Avram to Moshe. So that's why he says first that it's for every year to tell us that the tzaddikim that the pasuk talks about over here, that bring down of Shechina, is not just those 7, but rather Elo l'kol echad v'echad miYisrael. But this is really every yid has to or has the ability to bring down the Shechina lamata. He makes it clear by saying that we're talking about everybody. We're talking about b'toichom b'toichalech b'amech kolum tzedik. I know it means b'zeh shenemar v'shachanti b'soichom loshen rabim shekoi gam hakol echad v'echad miYisrael. So we're saying like this: when the pasuk says v'shachanti b'soichom in the plural, which also goes on each and every yidin b'shachanti b'soichom for every yid, there is shnei inyonim. There are 2 aspects. There is the place where the Eibishter rests, which is b'soichom, not in the Mishkan alone, in the Mikdash, but b'soichom by every yid. And also that they, tzaddikim, yirsho yishknu, that they are also mamshich. There's 2 in yon. First of all, shebekoicha shel kol echad ve'echad miYisrael liyash mishkan or mikdash lo yizbarich. It's within the power of each and every one of the Jewish people to become a mishkan, a dwelling place for mikdash, sanctuary lo yizbarich. So that's the first aspect. The person becomes the Mikdash. Sheyiyeh shoichen ba'ikar Shechina, that in him will rest the main Shechina ba'isa oifen mamish k'moisha hoi b'beis HaMikdash, in exactly the same way that it was in the Beis HaMikdash. That's number 1. The person becomes a dwelling place for the Shechina. But then there's the second part, that the person draws down the Shechina. Shachanti b'soichom first, begam she'al yidei zeh yumshach gilu elokus ba'olam, and also that through them becoming a mokum for the Eibishter, Shechina, a dwelling place in which the Eibishter rests, just like in the Mikdash, Gashmi, it rests in him. Then in turn, through this, we draw down godliness in the world. And Aleha, they bring it down into the land. So the Yid becomes a Migdosh, and then the Tzaddikim, Yirshulad, every Yid, we bring down the Shechina La'ad Aleha into the world. That's the job, the ability of every Yid. To add further, this that Shachanti B'Seichom in a plural means that it's in every Yid, comes in the Maimer Behemshech Lazeh Shahirodas V'Hamshachas Ashchina Lamata Hoysal Demeshu. This first he says that it came through Moshe Rabbeinu, and then he says that it takes place by every Yid. It comes, it follows Shahirodas V'Hamshachas Ashchina Lamata Hoysal Demeshu. That was through Moshe. So why is that? Ki hakoyach Shebekol echad miyisrael lahamshich, the power that every yid has to draw down. Sheyiyeh shoichen boy iker shchina, that the main shchina should rest. How does we have the power? U'al yidei hamshochas iker shchina lamato shoyis al Moshe. It's not on its own. It's through the main Shechina that was brought down below through Moshe. That gives every Yid later on the ability to bring Mamshech, the Shechina that he should dwell in him. It started off with Moshe. Moshe hayirida v'hamshocha lemato shehoiso b'matan Torah. A lot of these, we find that the Hamshacha started off with Moshe, and then later on it continues. But it all needed Moshe Rabbeinu to start it. Just like the descent and the drawing down below that was by Matan Torah, by Yered Habayal Har Sinai, in which Hashem descends on Har Sinai. So that was such a way. It wasn't just Moshe Rabbeinu bringing the Torah then, but what happened at that time? It's a whole change in the world that Moshe Rabbeinu started off. That was Geshen Nitan HaKoyach. Through that, Har Sinai. Hashem descended on Har Sinai. It was in a way that through this Nitan HaKoyach was given the power Shagam La'achre Matan Torah Yuchal Lahamshir Gila Lukus Lamato. And then also after Matan Torah, we have the ability to draw down godliness below. So all what it means is that Moshe Rabbeinu Matan Torah started Vayered Avayel Har Sinai, and later on it continues. The Zehu Sham Razal, because this is what our sages tell us. Matan Torah Nizbat Lo Hagzeda Del Yonim Yerdu Lamata. That by Matan Torah, the decree that was originally that the upper worlds cannot come down below was Nizbat. Hashem came down. That's the Inyan Bitl Hagzeda. So when we say the decree was nullified, who? That means from here and on, the upper can come down lamata. So it means it started then, but that allowed later on for after Matan Torah to be mamshechid because there's no more partition, there's no more block. So a similar way it is as it relates to the descent and bringing down the matter, Shahoya al Yidei HaMishkan Sha'osa Moshe, that took place through the Mishkan that Moshe made. The Mahamailis. Okay, so what? So here we're talking about Matan Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu was already Mamshich. What did Moshe Rabbeinu accomplish with the building of the Mishkan more than he accomplished with bringing down the Torah when the Gezerah was this battle? So it's in a whole new area. It's in an area that it comes to the Tachtonim. Because the advantages of that was drawn down in the Mishkan, the Gabe HaMshocha Shahoiso B'Matan Torah, relative measuring relative to the Hamshocha that took place in Matan Torah is the Hamshocha Lemata Shahoiso B'Matan Torah. That which was drawn down below that took place in Matan Torah, Hoiso Mitzad de Lamailo. This was from the side, from the perspective of above. Lochein Hoya Hagilui Rak Lifisho. That's why that revelation was temporary. When the Eibishter came down to the mountain Loyalu Bahor was holy, and then later on, the mountain did not really absorb that Kedusha because it came from above, so it left. But when I mean, it doesn't say that point in the Maimon, I'm just thinking that that's the Gilu Fisha. But Hamshocha b'Mishkan Hoyso b'Oifun Shahamato, the way it came down in the Mishkan was in such a way that the Mata Hadvorim Agashmim Shemehem Nasa Mishkan, the physical matters from which the Mishkan was built, was made. Nasa Keli Lahagilui, that becomes a vessel to the Gilui. That's a permanence in the structure of the Mishkan. So that was the accomplishment in the Mishkan over the Matan Torah, that the Gilui is that the physical matter become a Mishkan. The Ayidesh, and then what happened? Ayidesh, Moshe, Hoyrid, Vihimshich, Es Ashchina, B'Mishkan. That through Moshe, this bringing down and extending the Shechina in the Mishkan. Ba'oifun shahamat nase keli lagilu, in a way that the below becomes a vessel for the revelation. Al yidei zaniten hakoyach lehamshich alakus ba'oifun zeh bebeis hamikdash. So this, through this, was given the power to continue in this way in the Beis Hamikdash, to make the matot be a keli alakus. That's the physical. Moshe Rabbeinu started with the Mishkan, and then it continues in the Mishkan. And also in the spiritual Mikdash, which is in each and every one of the Yidden, that Moshe Rabbeinu started it off, and then we have the ability to continue to make the mata a keli for godliness. And through the fact that the Hamshocha b'Hamishkan hoyso b'oifon, that it wasn't a way, the physical and the Mishkan, later on, that expanded to the whole world. Hoyso b'oifon shali dezeh nimshach gilu elakus gam b'chlolus ha'olam, that it was extended, the revelation of godliness in all of the world. It came down in the Mishkan, and from the Mishkan it extends to the whole world. Na'asal derech zeh gam b'hamikdash haruchni shebekol echad miYisrael. So similar to this, also became about in the spiritual Mikdash, which every Yid has, the hashras hashchina sheba'odom, that when the Shekhinah dwells in the person, in his Beis Hamikdash, in his Mishkan, it's not only going to stay by the person, but rather it's going to expand into the world, just like in the physical Mishkan, it expands into the world from the person. It'll be in such a way, that way the God revelation of godliness will be revealed gam ba'olam, also in the world, that v'yishkinu la'ad aleho, that they're going to make the sheikhen ad aleho on the eretz, not just in Besoicham, but in the world. So the Rebbe explains over here that Moshe Rabbeinu was the opening, who started it for the Mishkan, and from the Mishkan it expanded into the whole world. But it was all Moshe, just like Moshe Rabbeinu started Matan Torah. That was mainly the Gilui Milamayla. But here in the Mishkan, he turned the Gashmis to become a gay keli for godliness. And just like in the Mishkan, Moshe Rabbeinu brings the revelation, starts it, and then it continues through him. And also into the world, the same thing he is by this avodah, that kol echad ve'echad, that you make a mishkan for yourself, and from that mishkan, you are extending it to the whole world. And the idea that the Rebbe explained in his base was that it's not only that we are b'soich kol echad, that the Shekhinah rests within each and every one of us, but actually the Yidden have the power to be mamshich from that shechina that they get in themselves to change around the world, and that's the idea of a yishknu la'ad, the sheikh al Allah, into the world. Okay, we'll leave it over here, and we'll be mamshich.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.